Good morning, everyone. How are you guys? Did you have a good weekend? Enjoy the snow?
I have 9:01 on February 23rd, 2026 in the Chickasaw County Boardroom. Call this meeting to convene. Roll call. We have Suko, Breitbach, Sawinski, absent is Carter, Hackman is present also. With Board Secretary Sheila Shackleton. Is there a motion to approve today's agenda as presented?
Second.
Motion by Travis, second by Steve to approve today's agenda. Any discussion? If not, roll call. Travis.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Jake. Aye. Motion is carried 4-0 with the absence of Isaac. Approve the minutes from last Monday, February 17th, 2026. There was a correction made by Suko to change his first name to last name. Any other corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve with that change?
So. Second.
Motion by Scott, second by Travis, to approve the February 17th, 2026 minutes with one correction. Any discussion? If not, roll call. Scott.
Aye.
Travis.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Jake. Aye. Motion is carried 4-0 with Isaac absent. Review and approve amended minutes from December 22nd, 2025. Sheila can explain this.
So what happened is, on the 22nd, we missed a resolution. It was, number 60. We had a bunch of resolutions that day. So 12, 22, 25, 60 was missed on the minutes and it was approved during the meeting. So we had a motion by Sawinski, seconded by Breitbach to adopt resolution number 12, 22, 25, 60. And this was setting dates of a consultation and a public hearing on a proposed amendment number 2 of the CWEC Urban Renewal Plan in Chickasaw County, state of Iowa. So it did not make the minutes that day, so we're putting it back up, and the full minutes will be published this week.
The paralegal has prepared a motion for the
And
records.
all I need is a motion to approve amended minutes for December 22, 25 meeting.
So when they were looking over the urban renewal plan update, they didn't see it in the minutes, so we need to get those corrected. Any questions, or the motion I would like to see is motion by to approve amended minutes for the December 22nd, 2025 meeting.
So. Second.
Motion by Scott, second by Steve to amend the minutes from December 22nd, 2025 with the motion of resolution number 60 outlined in the minutes. Any discussion? If not, roll call. Scott.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Travis.
Aye.
Jake. Aye. Motion is adopted 4-0 with the absence of Isaac. Yep. I don't know if I have any public comment today.
No, we do not.
Acknowledge the change of status for Jeff Fernance with EMS and MEI. So at the EMC/EMA agency meeting on Wednesday, the commission voted to, give me a better word, Jeff, suspend, wait until.
Idle.
What? Idle your 2 side positions until May 27, 2026. At that time, a 4-person committee, which is made up of myself, City of Nashua, City of Fredericksburg, and the Sheriff, Ryan Shalver, have a couple joint meetings together as a committee to redo your job description, go over some of the HR recommendations of the overtime status to if you can do MEI calls, if you can do EMS calls, in your full-time status as non-exempt. Fair enough?
So what day is that meeting?
The meeting was on,
Well, it was last week. so it's
Last
the next
Wednesday.
one.
so the next one is May 27th, 2026. Dave, you got any other advice? I mean, it's those two positions of EMS and MEI is County Board of Supervisor controlled. That's why we are acknowledging what the EMA did, or EMC did.
Right, we've talked about this for the last couple of months, and it's moving forward, so I'll wait and see what that commission does, and of course, your board can ultimately do something besides or above or beyond what that commission does. But I think it's fair to let that commission try and work out with Jeff what exactly they want him to do going forward, and then you guys can react accordingly. So, yeah. I think
So if it's okay with us,
temporarily suspend his employment for both of those roles.
until May 27th, at that time, hopefully there's a solution.
Right.
Any board member have a question? If you weren't there, or if you have a question from them. If not, I think we need to have in our minutes to acknowledge the change of, what's a good word? Just not suspend, but
You just temporarily pause it.
temporary pause.
His employment with both of those two agencies or both of those two entities.
From. Second.
Motion by Travis, second by Steve, to temporary pause the status with Jeff Bernance for the departments of EMS and MEI. I would say until May 27, 2026.
That's fair, yeah.
And we will revisit after the EMC visits about it that night. Any other discussion?
Just on the MEI side, are we gonna discuss possibly somebody that can fill in part-time there?
So currently that kind of got brought up. Do we have 3 other ones? 4 other ones? So we have Conrad.
Conrad, I think it's 4. isn't there?
Joel, Conrad, India, and Kevin.
Okay, so we have 4. I did, the sheriff was in the meeting that night, so I did let him know to let his dispatchers know that the schedule is down to 4, not 5. So I think they should be okay with 4 running the MEI investigations. Good question, though. They just won't put them on the schedule or call them if they go through all 4. They'll have to call Brinkman as the chief medical examiner. Any other questions? If not, roll call. Travis?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Jake, aye. Motion is carried 4-0 with the absence of Isaac. I think we can skip to this one. Acknowledge and file the notice of Chickasaw Wind Energy Center permit assignment to Mid-America Energy Company. This was given to, I think, myself and Sheila a couple of weeks ago. Just didn't know what to do with it. I think since we did have a road use agreement with the developer, I just think we need this file, and this is now owned by Mid-America. It came from In Energy, saying everything is given to Mid-America from here on behalf of Chickasaw County Wind Energy Center LLC. Unless you guys have any questions, it was dated February 15th, 2023 between Chickasaw County, and as of February 4th, 2026, they no longer hold the permits or nothing. It's all been given to Mid-America. You can see the exhibit A, there's 1 through 6 laying out all the things they gave to Mid-America. The right of work, the permits, the road right of way permits, underground construction permits. Just a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Sorry.
Motion by Travis, second by Scott, to receive and file the notice of Chickasaw Wind Energy Center permit assigning Mid-America Energy Company to Mid-America Energy Company. Any other discussion? If not, roll call. Travis?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Jake? Aye. Motion is carried 4-0 with the absence of Isaac. All right, got 9-10 here. meet with Elizabeth Thayer,
Dyer, you're right,
Perfect.
yep, Dyer.
CPA from Gardner and Company. And good morning, to present the fiscal year 24-25 audit report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Does everybody have their audit books?
They do. I have a couple of here if you guys want. Could you?
The easiest way is just to kind of step through and hit the highlights and let me know if you have questions, so. This is the audit for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2025. Just as a refresher, the purpose of an audit is to opine on whether or not the financial statements are fairly presented. The audit is not designed to find fraud and errors or irregularities. The audit is designed to perform procedures to provide an opinion on whether or not the financial statements are fairly presented. The audit is based on tests and samples. We don't look at every single transaction that would have gone through the county during the fiscal year or that would have impacted, the findings that we have in the back of the book. So the first step we're gonna make is the independent auditor's report. It's on page 2, it's on Gardner Company letterhead. And first paragraph, for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2025, we have issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is what you want to hear. It means that we believe that the financial statements contained in this annual report are fairly presented. Now, during the course of the audit, we did have some material adjustments that were proposed based on transactions that we found that either were not recorded or not recorded properly, but those proposed adjusting journal entries were made by the county to properly include all those transactions in the financial statements. So the remainder of this report just goes ahead and talks about the basis again, hitting the fact that it's based on tests and samples. We don't look at every single transaction. Ultimately, Chickasaw County is responsible for the financial statements. We assist with the drafting of them, but ultimately she reviews and approves those financial statements. On page 3, this letter also lays out what our auditor's responsibilities for the audit are. And we're providing reasonable, not absolute assurance that, they are fairly presented. And it goes ahead and gives the bullet points as far as what we're doing during the course of the audit. We also include required supplementary information with the financial statements. And they're included in this report as well. On page 6, it starts management's discussion and analysis. And the following pages go ahead and give you some financial highlights and kind of explain what's included in this annual report. The county does present 3 separate sets of financial statements. You budget on the cash basis, so you start there and we'll have a budget to actual on the cash basis. You're required to do some modified accrual reporting, which is a 60-day accrual period. You submit what's called the gap report to the Department of Management, which has the 60-day accruals, but it does not have capital assets or long-term liabilities. So we go ahead and we have that in here. And then also we present the full accrual financial statements that do include the capital assets and the long-term liabilities. And that's most like what you see in the private sector. And so this goes ahead and explains all of that. We also have to include notes to the financial statements that provide additional information. We've got some comparative information in here, and in the pages that follow, it talks about what the budgetary highlights were for the year. She goes ahead and provides information about, what was happening with your budget and then it's during fiscal 25. We talk about your debt, we talk about your capital assets, and then Sheila again gets to weigh in on the economic factors in next year's budgets and rates to kind of give a preview as far as what fiscal 26 is going to bring for the county. On page 13, then, we start the actual financial statements, and Exhibit A and Exhibit B are your full financial statements that include your capital assets and they include your long-term liabilities. So this is most like what you would see in the private sector, so as the balance sheet and income statement. New this year, we did have to implement Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement number 101 and 102. 101 was the one that impacted your financial statements the most. 101 was entitled Compensated Absences, and what it did is it changed the way we looked at compensated absence calculations. So now we have a current portion and a long-term portion. In the past, it was just your vacation and your comp time that actually got paid out if someone terminated employment, whether due to a retirement or a resignation. This standard that we are required to implement goes ahead and looks at sick time too, and the sick time that your employees would use during the course of their employment. So we had to go ahead and Donna had to calculate a probability for each employee, what they thought the probability was that they were going to use that comp time between now and the time of terminated employment. And that's what's included as the long-term piece of that liability. So that does look a little different from prior years. On page 15 then, we have the statement of activities, which is your income statement. Chickasaw County did have a positive change in that position of $131,000 for this year. So you also spent a little over $500,000 of your American Rescue Plan funds. So again, pretty normal. On page 16, we start Exhibit C. Exhibit C and Exhibit E are your modified accrual financial statements. So again, these capture that 60-day accrual period. They do not include capital assets or long-term liabilities, and they mirror what's reported to the Department of Management in that GAAP report. So we present the major funds, which are general rural services, secondary roads, debt service, and capital projects. Those calculated as major, so they go ahead and are presented separately. And then that last column, the non-major, that's all of your smaller governmental funds that are aggregated and presented as one. Now, the detail for those non-major funds will be presented in Schedules 1 and 2 in the back of this book. So Exhibit C and Exhibit E, like I said, are your modified accrual. Exhibit D and Exhibit F show you how to get from the modified accrual to the full accrual. So it just kind of steps you through the process of converting those financial statements. Exhibit G, H, and I then are your proprietary funds. So this is your health insurance. And health insurance continues to be tricky for all of our counties to budget for. Rates increase, and it's increasingly difficult to be able to provide good coverage at a reasonable cost. So I know that continues to be a challenge for several of our counties. Exhibit J and Exhibit K, these are your custodial funds. So these are the funds that you're holding in a fiduciary capacity. So your cities, your corporations, your townships, your assessor, where you're going ahead and collecting those dollars and remitting on behalf of those agencies. So this gives a snapshot at June 30 for their assets and liabilities, and K shows the activity. And again, in the back of the book, you'll see the detail for each of those funds presented separately. Starting on page 30, then we have the notes to the financial statements, and I'm going to skip through most of these unless someone has a question. Included in this, a lot of accounting vocabulary and definitions. It also goes ahead and again explains the cash to modified and accrual basis of accounting. It talks about what you have for health insurance and what you have for your property and general liability insurance. There's also several pages provided by the actuaries that calculate your net pension liability and your total OPEB liability. And so we're required to present several pages of actuarial disclosures with that. On page 56, we do have a note about the implementation of the new GASB pronouncement, which that talks about GASB 101, that compensated absences, and kind of gives a little more detail, and we're required to disclose that we have implemented that for this fiscal year. So then on page 57, we have your cash basis financial statements. Because the county budgets on the cash basis, we present this. We have the actual cash in and out for your governmental funds. We present your original budget along with your final amended budget, and then we look for variances. And again, through the course of our analytical procedures, some of those variances are larger than what we usually see. But again, there was an explanation for every variance that we had. The most common is with capital projects, because Mother Nature seems to mess with project timelines. And so capital projects never seem to progress the way you think they're going to. So we have that as well. And then with intergovernmental also, state grant reimbursements don't always come when you think they're going to. So you might amend or expect to receive those receipts from the state, and that doesn't always happen the way you think. So even though some of those variances are rather large, we were able to have adequate documentation and explanation for those variances. So the pages following that are some more required supplementary information, talking about the budget, and then also we're required to present 10-year schedules for your IPERS, the proportionate share of your IPERS, net pension liability, and then we show 10 years on page 62 and 63, 10 years of what the contributions to IPERS have been. And again, some more actuarial information, and then the same with your OPEB. We go ahead and we have an 8-year schedule. That particular GASB has been in place for 8 years, so this will grow to a 10-year schedule on page 65 and 66. Then on page 68 and 69, we start the non-major information. So this is supplementary information. So all of those smaller governmental funds are aggregated and presented in the front as non-major, the aggregate total. This is the detail for those funds on Schedule 1 and 2. And then Schedule 3 and 4, same thing for those custodial funds. On Schedule 5, which is 76 and 77, you've got 10 years of history for your revenues by source and expenditures by function for all of your governmental funds. And then we get to some more Gardner and Company letterhead on page 78. And this is independent auditor's report on internal control and compliance. And in addition to providing an opinion on whether or not the financial statements are fairly presented, we are also required to do some internal control test work and to do some Code of Iowa compliance testing. The state auditor's office provides us with a Code of Iowa compliance checklist. There's some things that we look at every year. There's some things we look at every other on a rotating basis. And then, sometimes they throw new things in just for fun to liven it up a little bit. So with the internal control, we have internal control questionnaires that are filled out by the departments to kind of go ahead and help us assess the risk that ultimately drives the audit. And then same with the Code of Iowa compliance test work. Some areas are more risky than others. TIF is a very risky area. It's very complicated. So, we tend to do a little bit more test work, which we'll see that with you guys next year.
Yeah.
But again, this is based on tests and samples, and the findings are based on the results of our test work. So it's one of those things, if you do something 12 times a year, you mess it up once, and if that's the one we happen to choose for testing, that triggers the finding. So again, that ladder goes ahead and describes all that. And then we get into the actual findings starting on page 80. And the first internal control finding we have is segregation of duties. It's an old friend. It's in every single audit that we issue. And it's just because you don't have enough people on staff to completely segregate the duties. So it's possible that one person would handle a transaction from inception to completion. You guys do have internal controls in place to try to help mitigate that risk. The supervisors are involved in a lot of the claims processes. You're looking at improving that. The treasurer's office, they have their bank reconciliations and their daily reconciliation process on the receipts end of it. So you do have controls in place, but nothing is 100% fail safe. So we're going to be talking about internal controls every year. The second finding we have is in regards to preparation of full disclosure financial statements. Because we assist with the preparation of the GAAP report and with the preparation of the full accrual financial statements, I'm required to put this in to the audit report. And again, this is in about 98% of the reports that we issue because we do assist with that process. Now, ultimately, we propose the adjustments. The county always has the option whether or not to make it, and ultimately Sheila is responsible for making sure that those entries get made and those financial statements are fairly presented. The third finding that we have on page 81 is in regards to financial reporting. During the course of the audit work, we did find some material amounts of accounts receivable, deferred inflows of resources, accounts payable, infrastructure additions and infrastructure construction in progress, and an installment purchase that hadn't been properly recorded on the county's financial statements. And a little bit more about that. With the accounts receivable, the treasurer's office is relying on all the departments to indicate in July and August if the revenue being received is for current year or prior year. The treasurer's office is not in all of those departments to micromanage and keep an eye on that. So it's just really important that especially during July and August, the departments are letting them know what fiscal year that needs to be recorded in, and the same with the deferred inflows of resources. Accounts payable, same thing, as those invoices are coming through the auditor's office in July and August to be paid, just need to be watching the dates to make sure that if the delivery date for certain things is prior to June 30th, that it's getting on that accounts payable listing. Again, with the infrastructure additions and construction in progress, that is all coming through secondary roads and making sure the status of those projects. Usually May and June is when the construction gets ramped up, and sometimes those bills don't get presented until July and August. So just, keeping an eye on those dates when those bills come through. And the installment purchase, we'll talk about this now, and we'll talk about it in a little bit with the code issues. There was an installment purchase that was made by the sheriff's office, and, there's accounting that needs to be done for that as well, and that hadn't been included on the financial statement. So those are the items that triggered this particular finding. Okay, so then on page 82, we moved into the statutory reporting or the Code of Iowa compliance testing. The first one we have is in regards to the budget, and we did have disbursements during the year that exceeded the amounts budgeted in the non-program function. This is that cemetery fund, and it was due to some delinquent taxes being collected and paid out that had not been expected to be collected. So I think Sheila's aware of that situation now and knows to budget a little bit of a cushion in case you do have some delinquent things coming in. The second one I want to talk about is the questionable expenditures. During our test work, we did not note any expenditures that we believe might not have public purpose. Now, that doesn't mean that there weren't any. It just means that when we selected our disbursements testing, the disbursements that we tested, everything had a documented public purpose. So just to clarify that a little bit. On page 83, we did have some related party transactions that we're disclosing. The Code of Iowa lists $6,000 as the threshold for a potential conflict of interest, and we did have one related party that was greater than that threshold. But there are, loopholes within the code to still do business with those local businesses, and because the related party did not participate in the acquisition of the services, this is not a finding. This is just a disclosure transparency. You can do work with related parties as long as you go out through a competitive bid, or if that person doesn't participate in the acquisition of services, you can still do business with them. You just have to do it through the proper channels.
Is it any amount or is it over the 6,000?
It's the, over the 6,000 is the, yep. And then on page 84, the last finding that we have is in regards to a public hearing. And during the year, the sheriff, on behalf of the county, entered into an installment purchase agreement for sheriff's equipment. However, a public hearing was not held prior to the authorization of this obligation. Anytime you're entering into a non-current obligation, so something that's going to span over several years, you're required to go ahead and follow the debt standards in the Code of Iowa to go ahead and enter into that. And because he did not have the public hearing, he didn't check all the boxes in order to have that obligation be in accordance with the code. Any questions on that piece? Okay, the other thing I want to talk to you about is your federal dollars. During the year, you did spend $514,000 of American Rescue Plan. The threshold for having to have a single audit is spending $750,000 of federal money during the year. You did hit that threshold, but because it was because of the American Rescue Plan Act expenditures, you qualified to do an alternative compliance examination engagement instead of the full-blown single audit, which is good news for everybody involved. It's a lot less painful, for lack of a better word, for everybody involved. So we were required to go ahead and do additional procedures on your American Rescue Plan expenditures. And then we also had to issue an independent accountant's report. We test your compliance with the, regulations for that specific grant, and then issue our report based on, the results of our test work. And so Sheila does have that. She will be required to file that with the U.S. Treasury when she does her filing for her American Rescue Plan expenditures. So, and I will get that to you electronically later today so that you can go ahead and complete that filing.
And you'll also give me the full.
I will.
Okay,
Yeah, I
thank
can
you so
release that
much.
now, so I will send that to you when I get back to the office.
The new law about the sick leave bank, what if an employee doesn't use their sick bank like we noted in the audit report? Does it matter?
No, it doesn't. It's an estimate. It's your best estimate, yeah. And in all of our documentation, we have Donna go through all the employees, because you have some employees that are gonna use every hour of sick that they have. And then you have some that would, prefer not to, and so they don't normally use it. And then everybody else, we kind of figured at 50-50, because life happens, illnesses come. Sometimes you have accidents that require you to, have medical attention and be away from work. So everybody else, that was kind of the guideline we used, that everybody else is kind of a 50-50. And, we'll revisit that every year going forward now, and, expect to see that fluctuate a little bit based on.
What's the reason why they added that? Just because of liability or?
Yeah, that is, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board really just needs to. But they just felt that not recognizing the sick liability was not appropriate either. So You know, because like I said, prior to the implementation of this standard, we were just looking at the things that definitely got paid out if an employee left employment. So, you know, your comp time,
Yeah.
holiday, vacation, you know, you pay that out if somebody does not use it before they leave employment. But then they thought it wasn't right to not look at that sick leave bank, because that is something that the county might possibly have to pay out. And the standard actually says more likely than not to be paid out.
But in our handbook, we don't pay out sick leave.
You don't, but we're looking at if they use it before they leave employment.
It's
Yeah,
on the books.
yeah,
It's not
it's on the books,
payout.
because if someone was sick and, you know, was going to be out, you're gonna pay that money out. And so that's why the board decided to look at that and recognize that liability, because, you know, if somebody, you know, say has cancer and is going to be out, you know, the county's gonna be paying that out. So that's why the change. And again, it is an estimate, it's gonna be fluid, you know, in future years, and it's gonna be based on the county's best estimate at that point in time, what they feel, you know, people are going to use by the time they terminate employment. Any other questions or concerns? I
It's
know
probably
next year
not
we'll be
in-
talking about TIF, so,
Yeah, next year's TIF. Just a common question I usually bring up every year, but it's not our duty to approve or even look at other autonomous boards, except for the VA. I believe statute says we have to approve those. Is it kosher to approve, I'm not picking on Jeff, please, but like those autonomous boards, like the assessor? Who actually approves his claims except for the assessor? We don't see them.
yeah, the conference board has given him the authority to go ahead and approve his claims.
So just like the EMA,
It is.
their director
It is.
can approve those claims.
You know, now, from my standpoint, you know, I like everything to be an open book, and, you know, I'm more comfortable when the assessors and those autonomous boards have the claims flow through the process, because it's another set of eyes.
Correct.
So, you know, in my world, that makes me really happy that it, you know, would go through the claims process and another stuff, because mistakes happen, and, you know, as innocent as they can be, you know, and a mistake, whatever, and it also protects, you know, the assessor or the emergency management director to have that second set of eyes looking at it. So, you know, from my standpoint, I'm all about that.
I get it.
But again, you know, they don't have to.
Correct.
Now, public purpose, you know, our state auditor, Rob Sand, is all about public purpose. And, you know, every expenditure is supposed to have a defined public benefit, which means the public is supposed to be able to have benefit for every dollar that is spent. So, you know, again, by having others look through those claims, you know, you're ensuring that they're being spent appropriately.
And I know they're public record, anybody can request them, but.
Yeah.
But we do have county conservation approved by their board, and public health
Yeah.
sees theirs.
And, you know, I encourage all the boards to work together so that everybody's on the same page, because ultimately you guys represent Chickasaw County, whether it's the assessor or the conservation or public health. You're Chickasaw County, and, you know, you should be united, you know, you should have a general gist of what you feel is appropriate. There should be good discussion, good documentation about what you feel is appropriate public purpose, and, you know, hopefully everybody's on the same page with that.
Yeah, and I know other counties do it differently.
Oh, yeah, it's 99 counties, 99 different ways of doing things. You know, some counties, you know, the other outside boards, they want somebody else looking at it, because again, you know, the assessors conference board and the emergency management board, they only meet a couple of times a year to do the budget process. And so, you know, they kind of, you know, because they're representatives on those boards, you know, they appreciate going ahead and seeing those claims go through the process. And then in other counties, we have, you know, that department head goes ahead and makes those decisions and approves those claims, and, you know, that's the end of it. But again, it's 99 counties. Again, that's putting the responsibility, the burden of responsibility and the burden of public purpose on that one individual if something does happen that's not appropriate. So I guess I'm all about transparency, and I'm all about, you know, a second set of eyes, because mistakes happen, you know, we make mistakes every day. And I just, you know, am more comfortable from an auditor standpoint when that's the case, and that's the process.
Yep, just wanted
I agree totally.
to, any other questions on the audit report or accounting in general, I guess. So you're with us another 3 years,
We are,
so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
we'll get you through the start of the TIF hopefully, so.
It's all good.
Well, and with that, call if you have questions. I know you reach out to, Julie at Howard County. She is an excellent resource because she has been through every single kind of TIF there is. So, and she can put it in English with the day-to-day stuff. I know what to look for coming in on an audit standpoint. She does your side of things.
Right.
So, and is very familiar, so.
So if the state changes something for July 1st of 27, we want to tip everything we can. You don't know. It's out there. We know it is.
Yes.
So. Otherwise, thank you.
All right.
Thank you
Well, thank you
very
for letting me
much.
come and visit this morning.
Yes, thank you for making the time.
Yeah, no problem.
Do you like all our snow?
You guys have a lot more than we got in Osage, so, yeah. I know, I'm ready for sunshine and sunny, I guess.
All right, Joel this morning's coming back from Decorah, so he said whenever he shows up, he'll be in, so we'll go back to that agenda item. Thanks, guys, for coming. Review and approve Chickasaw County confidential statement. I can explain a little bit about this. Let me find my copy of this. There's one right there. So just some concerns I've been hearing from department heads throughout the last, I would say, 6 months. So we reached out to Mike and Jeff, our 2 HR attorneys, had some concerns with people working by themselves, example, custodians throughout the county. What is confidential, what is personal, what is not supposed to be said. If you accidentally come across some confidential records, I'm not really blaming anybody, but I think this would be a refresher. This was prepared by Mike Galloway. It's a very simple 1-page Chickasaw County confidential statement that you acknowledge that I'm acting in the service capacity of Chickasaw County, Iowa, and may have access to confidential sensitive information while performing my assigned duties. I understand that all information obtained through my work with Chickasaw County is confidential and shall not be disclosed or used for any purpose outside my official duties except as authorized by law. And then we just asked them that they agreed to comply with Chickasaw County policies, ethical standards, and all acceptable state and federal confidential and privacy laws, and to respect the privacy and dignity of all individuals served by Chickasaw County. The consequences, I understand that violation of this statement may result in discipline action and or legal consequences. I don't want to pick out a said area that just needs this as a refresher, but if you guys have any concerns, visit with Sheila or myself or Mike, but this probably should be with new employment, new hired for sure, but we can't find anywhere in previously that people sign these confidential statements.
We had the custodians.
Yeah, the custodian. Oh,
Because they had to sign it because of healthcare.
because they worked in the public health department, cleaning the rooms after hours, but like the current people, Deb, Dave, Zach.
But Dave has one, but
Dave
Deb
has-
doesn't.
Deb does not, Zach does not. So I think it's just countywide. Everybody please sign this, acknowledge that there is still, I know we are the Chickasaw County public entity, but there is still stuff out there that's confidential. I don't need to hear rumors on the street before some department head tells me what's happening. Just trying to make sure that we do understand that there is some stuff out there that is strictly confidential, personal related. So you guys all got a copy of it. Like I said, it was prepared by Mike. Sheila's office got it to this point. If you guys want to add something, I guess we'll visit with Mike again, but this is very short and sweet. Confidential statement. I think they should be all sent out to all department heads and have staff sign them and return them so we can put them in their personal files, that they acknowledge that there is some stuff out there that cannot be talked about. Any questions, concerns? Just another thing to help us out if there's a lawsuit or any kind of litigation out there, that all, say, 148 county employees know this. Please keep it confidential. Is there a motion to approve the Chickasaw County confidential statement?
Second.
Motion by Travis, second by Scott. So that motion then does say, right, Travis, to give it to everybody, have them sign off, get it back to the auditor's office. We need a deadline or just say in a timely manner?
I would give it a deadline.
3 weeks, 2 weeks? Bring them back,
Should be.
13th of March.
bring them back at the department head meeting on the
I
9th?
was gonna say 9.
Bring them back to the department head meeting?
Yep.
Fair enough.
Bring them back where?
To the department head meeting, or
Oh.
sooner.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, bring it to the department head meeting.
That should give enough time to get them back. We sign them too. I really think we take that oath, but there's some stuff that we are privileged to and that is still confidential. I think it's just a protection for all of us. Any other discussion? If not, roll call Travis.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Jake, aye. Motion's carried 4-0. With the absence of Isaac. Discuss and approve applicants for the City of New Hampton Board of Adjustments. So remember last Monday, we got an email forward from Karen, City Clerk, that there was one absence. And Dave can help us with this a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump out of you, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So make sure we do this the right way. So we did get a resignation on Monday from one of the 2 members that the Board of Supervisors is statutorily authorized to appoint to New Hampton's Board of Adjustment. And just a refresher, that's because the ordinance does extend. So by statute, we are allowed, or required, I should say, to have 2 members on the Board of Adjustment, one of whom is supposed to own ground for agricultural purposes. We had a hard time filling that at one time, and we had a resolution stating that we couldn't find anybody, which is allowed by law. So we have some other issues with this that we're dealing with the city, but I don't want to get ahead of that. Bottom line is we do have 1 resignation, and potentially we may have both slots to officially fill, but we for sure have 1 slot to fill. So my suggestion is that I think we've already got applicants. I don't know how we've gotten applicants without publishing that we have openings, potentially. We know we have at least 1 opening. So I would suggest that you open it up to applicants. And then once we figure out what slots, if any, we need to fill, then we fill them here in a couple of weeks after you have a deadline for the applicants to come in. And I continue to work with the city on the other issues that are underlying that, but we know for sure we're gonna have at least 1 opening through the other rest.
Correct.
And that's what we were thinking about with that, with this, because.
Right. So I think
So,
put it out there for public consumption, whoever wants to apply, the application's at your office, set a deadline for it, and then by the time the deadline is here, we'll know exactly what we need to appoint and who we need to appoint.
So we'd publish it in the paper.
yeah, I'm gonna go into 41423 a little bit deeper though. Section 2. Do we need to change our application, because how do we know if said individuals have agricultural land definition under 570.8?
Yeah.
Definition of agricultural? Because we could do the research, but we don't know if they are a farmer.
So there should be something on there, yes, that does say, do you own land, you can pull it out of the code,
Yeah.
that is actively used for an agricultural purpose.
Both applicants have, or just one?
Just one
of
of the 2 appointees, one of the 2 appointees. And if you can't find someone that has that, there is a procedure where you can certify to the city that you cannot find someone to serve that meets that qualification, and then have both not meet that qualification. But let's try and find someone first.
Because if you feed that, you got it in front of you probably, I printed it off. Then it says the failure to identify an eligible and willing appointee who owns land that is actively used for agricultural purposes shall be determined independently.
Yes, so if you recall,
So we need to open this up, figure out if 1 or 2 is open. You're gonna work on that.
correct, yeah, but we're gonna have applicants regardless.
Exactly. And then if we waived 1 already, say, I'll say it, if Sue Ellen's already been approved, maybe not, right? she's non-farm. So the next one would have to be then.
Yep. So we did a resolution back in 2023, in July of 2023, I'm looking at it right now, that basically set forth that we advertised for it and it was open for a long enough time. We couldn't find anyone that met that qualification to own an agricultural ground. So we can do that again if we need to, but let's open it up and see if we get applicants and go from there. But I do agree that there should be a place on this application form that says, do you,
Or
right out of the code.
Yep,
um,
it's 578.
Do you own land that is actively used for agricultural purpose?
Within that 2 mile radius.
Yep.
It's 578.8.
So the land has to be in the 2 mile radius.
I believe so. I really do, unless somebody can correct me. I'm not an attorney.
I haven't looked at that closely. They have to live in that area, but this just says at least one of the additional members shall own land that is actively used.
They shall be residents of the area outside the city limits. And then it says at least one additional member shall own land that is actively used. Well, the lawyers figure that one out.
And I guess as I'm reading it just here, I mean, I can check into it some more, but my initial reading of it would be no, they just need to own agricultural land. Own land that is actively used for agricultural purposes, because the first sentence talks about they have to be a resident of the area outside over where she's owning jurisdiction is extended, so within that 2 mile buffer. That language is not used in the next 2 sentences, it just says own land that is actively used for agricultural purpose. That's my reading of it.
So yeah, I think our first step is to advertise for a set amount of time, and I think we need to change our Chickasaw County Boards and Commission application to show that question, yes or no.
And I suppose if you want to be technical and give preference to people, maybe you have a follow-up question. So the bottom of the form says, do you quote own land that is actively used for agricultural purpose? And underneath that is, if yes, where is that land located?
Fair enough.
Then if you, in theory, have 2 applicants who both own land, but one owns within the 2 mile buffer, you, in theory, could give preference to that person versus someone who just owns it in another part of the county. But I think the intent is to have someone with an agricultural background or interest on the adjustment. That's the intent of the law.
I agree.
Well, since we're talking about changing the application a little bit, one of our questions is says how much time you're willing to vote. Should we put something in there that they would have, if they are a new appointee, they would have to take the hour class for my bid?
That's in the bottom of the,
Is it?
yeah,
In the law itself for the
no,
application?
it's in the.
I have it at the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, we did that. We fixed
Okay.
the application when that first came out.
So I guess the motion we need to have discussion on is to advertise for this open position, pending, could be 2. I guess for everybody knowing, we're trying to find minutes that we reappointed somebody, and Dave's working on that right now with the city and us, so. So we know there's an opening for sure, possible 2. And then redo the application to add those 2, if you actively own agricultural property, and then the subsection would be, is that land within 2 mile radius?
If I just ask if so, where is it located?
Oh, okay, that'll work.
They're not gonna know probably 2 mile, well, they would, in theory.
Well, they have to, because they gotta be residents
I know,
within
it's
that.
easier for us just to ask where they are. We can figure that out.
So all I'm gonna do is put like my little commissions and boards that need to be filled in the
Yes.
paper. Yeah, okay. And I'm just gonna put 5 positions.
That's an open, we have
I
an
would just
opening.
put, we're looking for applicants for it.
Okay,
Yeah, and it'll be on the website and at the courthouse as well.
Yeah. You guys wanna give it 2-3 weeks? So today is the 23rd, give them back by the 13th or the 20th? Or do you want to do the 6th? What's that? Yeah, the 20th?
So March 20th.
Is that too much? Is that good enough?
No, that's fine, and the two that, well, it's our problem, so, I mean, regardless. The two that already applied are gonna have to refill with that portion on the bottom of their application, so just let them know that if they wanna generally apply.
Okay, so March 20th, you want
I heard March 20th by 4 o'clock in the auditor's office. Advertise in the local papers and the website,
I would say so.
bulletin board.
So then you'll make your appointment on the appointments.
23rd. Somebody want to make that said motion?
So,
Is there a second?
sorry.
Motion by Scott, second by Steve, to go out for applicants for the City of New Hampton's Board of Adjustments that live within that 2 mile radius, due back by the 20th of March, 4 PM. Open them, discuss them on the 23rd of March. Any other comments, concerns, discussion? If not, roll call. Scott?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Travis?
Aye.
Jake, aye. Motion carried 4-0 with the absence of opposition. Thank you, guys. EMS Director Joel Knutson, going Joel. After last week's Tuesday's discussion on this, myself and Joel, I guess, decided to put this back on. You guys all got a copy of what he worked on with the county attorney. And I know I was feeling some questions from board members, so I just said, put it back on today and iron this thing out. You guys all got a copy of this yesterday, sorry, board members, but you did have a chance to review it. I guess what's your concern?
I have a few copies
You
here.
got
I could use it.
it, sorry. Yeah, I never sent it to you, I apologize.
I didn't print the newest one.
Yeah.
So the newest one, you guys,
Thursday.
no, this was on Thursday. Customer will, what's in there, customer will supply a Ram 5500 regular cab 4x4 chassis model year 2026 or newer to outfit the type 1 ambulance. I guess, board members, you have concerns with that, I heard.
What, the question that I got is, why are we going with a Ram 5500?
Yeah, so, couple of reasons. I wish some of you could have been down at the trade show down in Des Moines in November, but, Ram versus Ford chassis, and we can talk about Chevys a little bit too. The Ram chassis versus the Ford chassis, it's purely legroom. There is a ton more cab room, accommodates more radios, accommodates more ability to put stuff in the cab. They're laid out better. In talking to all the vendors down there, right now, Ram has 75% of the market share. It wasn't that way a few years ago. Ford used to do, they called it group pricing, or do you remember what the actual term of it was? Something like group pricing, which made the Ford chassis far more attractive. They've since gone away from that. They don't do that anymore. And that's where Ram has stepped up, and Ram falls under our state bid, which makes the Ram chassis over the Ford far more fiscally, far better deal fiscally. One of the responses after I talked to Jake that I got back from one of the manufacturers was, and I'll just read it. On the Type 1 chassis, if you went with a Chevy 5500 for that type, they would have to go with a bigger box because it's a bigger chassis, and that would increase the cost significantly. Not only that, but this particular this particular manufacturer will not order Chevy chassis because of all of the issues that they've had. We would still build on one, but we will not supply the chassis, which doesn't really pertain to us because we intended to supply our own chassis to get the government pricing on them. For us, it is 100%, not only because of the increased legroom and cabin size, serviceability. We have a Ram dealer in town. Our closest Ford dealer is in Charles City, as I mentioned in last week's meeting. When it needs service work that has to be done by a certified Ford dealer, we have to take it over there. Somebody has to follow in vehicle, we have to leave it, and then repeat the whole process to bring it back home.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you this. I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he said that our local dealer will not work on anything over a 3,500.
That's not accurate.
So I called them this morning, and they said, an oil change maybe, but we just don't, if any warranty work, recall work, has to go elsewhere.
So that came right from Mitch Lowers when I talked to him. So I don't know who you talked to, but,
Well, I actually talked to two people out there.
okay.
And basically what I got told is warranty work, recall work, has to go either to Beery and Waterloo, Cedar Falls, or there's a dealer in Mason City.
Okay, if you can let me know who you talked to, so I can reference that back to Mitch, but I would assume that,
No, that's just what I was told this morning.
I got no reason not to.
I talked to the service gal out there.
Okay.
And she's like, you could probably, oil changes, probably anything above that, go somewhere else.
I guess I can clarify with Mitch, but that was directly what Mitch had told me, so, either way, I mean, them being the Ram dealer, in our town, I think it would be foolish not to stick with them, or and then for the before mentioned reasons of the cab room, for all of the stuff we have in there. The other thing is, I did, chat with them a little bit after I talked to Jake. Anybody care to take a guess on what the difference is between a two-wheel drive and a four-wheel drive, cost-wise?
Probably only like $3,000-4,000.
3,200. Yeah. Yeah, and I jokingly said, does anybody order a two-wheel drive anymore? And Mitch said, not in Iowa. So, for those reasons, do I think we need 3 4-wheel drive ambulances in this county? Probably not. I think probably not.
For that price, I can see $3,000 or $4,000.
Last night of Snowmageddon, we had an ambulance stuck in town. Would a 4-wheel drive gotten stuck? I can't say that it wouldn't have, but all of those transfers that we have to take because it's life over limb and the roads are questionable at 2 o'clock in the morning because the plows aren't out or there aren't as many plows out. Having that 4-wheel drive to give a little bit of extra safety so that our back end doesn't try to pass us when we're going to Rochester or Waterloo, I think it's worth it. I guess in my mind, if we were going to pick a chassis, it would either be a Ford or a Ram. The increased cost with a Chevy, I don't feel is worth it. So then when we go down that rabbit hole a little further, Ford versus Ram, there's a reason that Ram has 75% of the market share of these new ambulances being built, and it's the cost difference of the chassis, pure and simple. So
Do we know what the cost difference would be? That's what I'm.
without being able to tell you dollar for dollar, because I don't know how much I'm supposed to share.
No.
40, so it would be greater than $20,000. If I could ballpark it that far. We know what the cost of the Chevy chassis is, we know what the cost of the Ram chassis is, what our state bid price is. when I asked one of the ambulance vendors what they were ordering, Ford chassis for, it was almost 30,000 more than the Ram chassis, which there would be a little bit of a discount being a governmental agency. So taking into account potentially up to 10,000, we're still north of 20,000 difference on those chassis.
Yeah, so the reason why this is on here, today's agenda, is because I thought last week we didn't specifically say we were gonna put the chassis in the letter sheet. So when I saw it on Thursday,
I think we have to
And
just
I agree.
from,
I
yeah,
agree.
finding out more, I mean, not all chassis are the same, finding out more like I said, you and I talking.
Yeah.
Which side of the cab did the coolant lines run on? They have to account for that when they build the module. I think we have to be more specific with the chassis that we're going to go with. I think we would be far better off, going with a Ram chassis over a Ford.
Well, the reason Jacob shared this with me while I was in Des Moines, and my question was, because of the last week's discussion, we would vote on this chassis purchase at a different time, because we don't know if we're gonna get a 27 or a 28,
Right.
whatever, and we were being very descriptive in this, as far as what we, and I just thought, we're done exactly what we're gonna order, but we haven't, as a board, voted on it, and I was a little leery of, if the board decides they wanna go with a 2x4 instead of a 4x4, but this is what we put in our specs.
Right, and that was why I kind of left a little bit of that open, model 26 year or newer.
Yeah.
In case, there's some stuff with the EPA coming out that maybe the newest chassis may not have to conform to the DEF standards. We're obviously, like I explained last week, we're going to push this chassis as far as we possibly can to get the newest model that we can, so that we have the most up-to-date warranty that we can. And maybe hopefully some of the emission stuff falls off.
Well, because the chassis is going to be, you're looking at what, 100,000?
No. I don't know how much I can share. I do have a price. I do have a
I'm
price.
just
on the
wondering,
chassis.
what I'm just wondering is, being a safe bid at all, if we need to get an RFP out there for a chassis first, and then go to the RFP for the approved buying a chassis, get competitive quotes.
That is not a question I can answer. I don't know.
Well, all state bids come through Carl, don't they?
They do.
Depends on the model. I think Dewey's got
Ford.
Fords.
So if it's model 27, the pricing probably won't be out till.
And that's correct. So, from what I've been told from a couple of the different manufacturers is you expect 2 to 3% year over year. Nothing huge. I guess
And then that's the other thing with the box size, if we say the low bid, and we don't have to take a low bid, remember that, because we have electronics and everything else goes into that. They'd have to bid a 26, 27, 28, but then when the RFP goes out, they need to know what truck this is gonna be mounted on.
Chevy frame rails are wider.
Well, that would be my only concern is with the possibility, but let's just say the 28. What if a 28 model year is a totally different frame? Frame is not known for making changes very often to anything. I'm not too concerned about it, but I'm just saying, we start building a box in late 26 or early 27 for a 28 chassis.
So the box will not be built
Until they have the chassis.
until they have the chassis.
Okay.
Like I said, and I shouldn't speak for all manufacturers, but the ones that we deal with the most, are the most popular in the Midwest. They are currently about 180 days in process. So 180 days from the day that they start, it's coming off the line, maybe even a little faster. So we know that as long as we have a chassis to them within 6 months of our estimated delivery date, they'll be able to alter anything that would need to be altered on that. Say, like you said, Ram does change the length or the width. Can't foresee it, but you know. I guess
Well, to me, that's almost more of a reason to figure out a chassis and then, can you send an RFP? Or send one out saying, hey, we're gonna have a chassis for it, that won't work.
Yeah, I think, I think we just, my recommendation, I guess, as a group, would be that we just come to a consensus on a chassis. This is the chassis we're going to use, and then RFP the box for it. How does the sheriff's office do it, when they decide to purchase a vehicle? Like,
Yeah.
do they go through the different manufacturers, or do they decide they're gonna buy a Tahoe, and so it's the state bid price on the Tahoe? Or they decide they're gonna buy a truck, it's the state bid price on that Ram versus I guess I'm not familiar with how that works, or
Yeah.
secondary roads, I guess, for that matter.
They bring a recommendation usually,
So,
and I know where you're going.
I don't know. To me, I guess the biggest cost part of this equation is going to be the box, but again, I see your point as well, and we wanna make certain that we're doing this correctly, right? We don't wanna put the cart ahead of the horse, so to speak. But,
You said the Ram had more leg room and more,
the cab room is substantially bigger, and that, you know, it's got a wider berth in the center where like all of our radios, all of our map books, all of our center console, like where the light switches are, and all of that stuff sits in the center. That's wider in the Ram versus the Ford. Legroom in the front is more. There's the way the cab sits, the box where the box mounts to the cab. In the Fords, there's more dead space between because of where the frame rails sit. The Ram, it does sit tighter, so you have more usable room, I guess you might call it. And then like I come back to, I think that's why currently Ram has such a high market share of the type ones that are being sent out.
So that's your recommendation going around.
It is,
The same
it
thing
is.
that we get when no one comes in with a truck purchase or Ryan comes with a car. He has his recommendation and that's what we go with.
There was there 6 of us down there in November that went through basically all the trucks on the show floor? And that was resounding from all of our crew, was the Ram, was the chassis that everybody, and it came from Brandon, who is a Ford guy through and through and through. So he had to eat a little bit of humble pie, but he did bite on it, so.
How much difference is there gonna be between Ford and Dodge?
Price wise,
No, I'm saying, like in the cab, like your control.
inches wise, I don't know.
I'm just wondering if, I gotta go jump in an ambulance. Not that I'm going to,
application.
not that I'm going to, but can a guy jump in a Dodge and in 2 seconds know, hey, this is where everything is, or something you've been running already?
From that aspect, I mean, it is just, it's a little bit different cat because it's a van versus a truck chassis. However, it's all, you know, shifters here, push button starts here, light panels here. That stays the same from ambulance to ambulance. The center console light display, I mean, your backup camera sits there, all of that stuff is universal. That doesn't change by manufacturer, doesn't change by chassis manufacturer, it potentially changes by ambulance module manufacturer, I guess I should say. But otherwise than that, it is interesting, and I've sat, so I have a Dodge, and I've sat in new Fords. It's interesting how similar all of the new chassis are becoming. I think they probably have found comforts in each chassis that transcend across all of them because people like them. And simplicity of it is pretty nice.
Things like the light switches and windshield wipers, they can vary from the same brand from one model year to the next. So it's just something you have to deal with.
All right, going back to the cover letter that, why we're here today, so I would just say change date to February 23rd, and is there a motion to send out these cover letters with the RFP for the box?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Scott, second by Steve to put out with the date said. You did change the dates to March 16th, 9 a.m. to the auditor's office. Change the date of the letter, Joel, to the 23rd of February. And it has the specs in there for
The trade-in allowances that all came on Dave's recommendation, and then the proposed purchase agreement at the bottom came on Dave's recommendation as well.
All right, motion and second on the floor, so we'll vote on them. Any discussion first? If not, we'll call Scott.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Travis. Aye. Jake, aye. Motion is carried 4-0 with the absence of Isaac. Thank you, Joel, for getting that done.
We will publish that.
Any department updates since you're here?
No, other than, we're losing Jeff for the interim potentially, and I'll look to update the MEI schedule to reflect that as well.
Yep, thank you.
Could be a broken record accountant, but I would come on 501c3.
We have made progress. We have, apparently and this is out of I've handed this off, because I was getting nowhere with it with my frustration. Handed it off, and we are going through a company called LegalZoom. It's an online service that has been, what I've been told, far more promising than the last. And the goal obviously is to have that up and fully functional in time for this entirety of this process. Better?
Just on our pool cash report today, there was a $5,000 gift and donation fund. Was that the county government or the community foundation?
That was not, no, that was a private donor,
That was private.
Yeah. Which we thank them very much for. That in and of itself will probably go to our new ventilator, in addition to the Region 2 funding that we've secured for that. That'll be completely paid for, and then it'll still come through our account just like everything does, but then we'll be able to put the money back in there for it.
Just come and get permission for
Correct.
provide the claim,
Yep.
please. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I saw it was up to 32,000, so I just wanted to ask.
Yep. That was
Appreciate it.
pretty awesome. And like I said, we'll hopefully keep going in that direction.
All right, any other questions for Joel? I'll get with you on your performance review sometime in March.
Let me know a date. No big deal.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Can you stop and sign something in the auditor's office?
Yep.
Thank you. All right. We'll do claims quick. Maybe they can get started on that. So prior bill claims, I have a total amount of $393.68. There was 3 different dates entered, so total is $393.68.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Travis, second by Steve to approve the prior bill amount, $393.68. Any discussion? If not, roll call. Travis. Steve.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Jake, aye. Motion carried 4-0 with the absence of Isaac. Payroll claims were dated last Friday, the 20th. Is there a motion to have those?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Travis to approve or allow payroll claims in the amount of February 20th, 2026 as a prior bill. Any discussion? If not, Steve?
Aye.
Travis?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Jake, aye. Motion carried 4-0 with the absence of Isaac. And then the total amount, $130,445.07.
So,
Second.
Motion by Scott, second by Steve to approve claims in the amount of $130,445.07. Any discussion? If not, roll call. Scott?
aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Travis? Jake, aye. Motion carried 4-0 with the absence of Isaac. Just gonna give these to Donna. One we got left is.
I can do that. Thank you.
We do committee assignments. DMA, had two different agendas on the 18th of February. One at 6 o'clock to do the budget. It was approved with our contribution of $65,172. Yeah. The budget was adopted 9-1 with the vote. The second meeting that I can bring up is, since I'm the alternate on 911, was the 6:05 meeting of 911 Service Board. That budget also got approved. A public hearing, some of you were there. I just made a comment about, as a citizen of the county, make sure we don't forget the 10-year radio project, what that's gonna look like after those 10 years, and was a little bit tired of renting property and tower space with the unknowns of maybe those won't continue. Who knows, right? What's our backup plan if we have to build our own tower space or rent from another vendor? We'll see what happens, I guess. And then going back to the 6:15 EMA meeting, it was on the agenda to discuss EMA funding, just to let people know that there's a bill in Des Moines to see how far that's gonna go.
Which one is it?
The
Oh, the
6:15.
6:16. Okay, yeah.
And then asking the cities if they're gonna be on favor of funding it more of a per capita rate than just, general supplemental. And then we talked about employment classifications. You guys already heard a little bit about that on the two motions that the EMC voted for to hold the two positions of MEI and EMS on hold until May 27th. So the four-person committee will get a meeting here once we get a schedule put together to meet maybe a couple times, 4 or 5 times, whatever it takes to get job descriptions and job titles out there, I guess. Those are the only ones I have. Travis, you got any committees?
The only thing I received an email, we'll have a special meeting, but it looks like for workforce development, they've got a East Central Iowa district wants to enter now. I won't know nothing until probably the 6th. Mainly because of money restraints.
Scott, you got anything?
Not how state wrestling counts.
Yeah.
No, that isn't.
I had FMC DCAT, Governors Board, February 18th in Charles City. We went through fiscal year 26 contracting financials, discussed juvenile court services, second judicial district, transfer remaining funds. Spent a lot of time discussing the realignment update. And I think they've all come to a realization that that board will probably be going away by the 1st of July.
Yep. Yeah. Steve, you wanna look at that? So I'm gonna pass that email. It's from Jason and, this is regarding just an FYI from last week's letting of B-22. You see, we have a certain dates, hopefully next week, to do a pre-levy resolution, and then hopefully we have an insurance bond to be purchased. We're hoping to close on that on like April 2nd. We had a meeting last week with Sheila, myself, Roman, and Jason, our bond attorney, to get the schedule put in. There might be another resolution if we don't get the funds by April 2nd, because we will potentially have a down payment with mobilization 30 days after we sign the contract. So, update on the TIF project and trying to get the rest of the stuff finalized. All we got left is budget work session, so let's take a recess for like 2-3 minutes to use the restroom and other things. So I'll declare recess at 10:22. Yeah, let me mute this quick. Sorry.
That was nice.
All right, got all the stuff back on, unmuted, so. It is 10:26, we're back in convene on February 23rd. Budget work session. Since Isaac is not with us today, he did call me last week that he will not be able to attend today, so we still have March 2nd, 3rd, or 4th to get our max levies to the auditor. I think we'll do that next Monday, but Sheila, do you have anything new?
I have two questions. I just want permission to transfer 300,000 from general basic to general supplemental.
So in the years past, prior to last year, there was always room to move GB funds to GS just to make payment the first 3 months. And then some year we actually transferred it back, but
Yeah,
she needs permission to transfer that
I was
as a
just thinking
transfer.
when Dave Wonder said I was stealing the money and putting it in general supplemental. It is legal.
So are we okay to have a transfer built into fiscal next year's budget of 300,000 from GB?
And we don't have to, just if it gets low. And I'm just worried about those first 3 months.
Right.
Okay,
Taxes come in.
yeah.
Correct.
And then,
You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
consensus, okay. And then, the second question I have,
Have we previously done, sorry, have we previously done a resolution?
We do in June, but then it's up to the auditor to do it all or none.
So you're gonna do a resolution ultimately on this?
Yeah,
yeah,
Okay,
Yes, but but it needs to be built in the budget.
that's fine.
yeah.
I just didn't want to authorize her to do so by consensus.
No.
No, this will be all part of my,
This is just a
The
bill.
My
consensus is to build it in
appropriations.
And then do a resolution.
yeah, and then I
just
do
want
that.
to make sure I'm on the same page.
Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to pull fast.
That's fine.
See, he watches that account go back and forth.
It might not be that amount.
I might
Go
not
up to
use it.
that.
You guys will give me permission to,
And that'll be the resolution.
Sorry.
no problem, good question.
Just like the resolution we do for secondary road fund, we give them whatever amount in a resolution in June. She does whatever she sees fit that's in RSB to transfer.
So I do transfers, like we're gonna have one from general basic to capital projects for the 1.5 million. We'll have one from, rural services to secondary roads for the amount that he's requesting. And then we'll have two, resolutions for, one from betterment to VMS, one from rural services VMS, and now we'll have this one. So we'll probably have about 5 resolutions talking about transfers. Okay, any other questions before I move forward?
Nope, you have another one, I think.
Okay, in economic development, which is Fund 34 on your full cash, there's 20,000 in there. Last year, we had budgeted 10,000. We did not use the money, or so far we haven't. We might still use
Any
it.
update on that?
Basically, I think it's gonna happen.
So I should put it back
I
in
would
there.
probably put it back in.
This is the request that I think we approved already for Frederica Locker to move into Fredericksburg Industrial Park. I believe.
Okay, so is that okay with Steve and Scott?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are my questions I had.
And then
You were given a
yeah,
tax asking?
tax
We're gonna go
asking
through that.
form that was updated this morning, so you should have a new one, 8/26 this morning.
I thought I saved it. Oh, I didn't because you have it.
Yeah.
Darn it. So everybody has a tax asking?
So just what it does, it does, yes.
Yeah.
So in 26-27, you see the tax asking, this is property tax only without gas and electric. You can see GB went up about 210,000 because of evaluation growth. Pioneer Cemetery went up about $300. General supplemental went down 310-ish, 310,000. County debt service went up a little bit, $300 roughly, or 250-ish. RSB went down then about 75,000. Those were the levy rates we said last week to put in. So then our total tax asking is $7,868,788. Remember, that's just property tax, it does not include gas and electric. You can see that's a decrease in the levy rate of about 1.00825 or 11% decrease.
Decreased, yeah.
And a lot of the big thing is too, guys, and I want this to be fair to everybody, we have became more efficient. We have made autonomous boards and secondary road fund pay for their own stuff. Which example? Liability insurance, HR, IT, building insurance. And why not, right? It's their departments, it's their levy rates, it's their budget items. So that's what helped us in GB, GS, and RSP to be in line for true expense. We are using some ending fund balance though to fill expenditures. We went through those numbers last week. And I'll just say it again, with these lower levy rates, which is just a number, it's a multiplication factor of 1 total. If something happens in Des Moines, I think we'll be just fine unless you guys feel different. We still are putting $1.5 million into, if you want to go up to your worksheets now. That's the tax asking.
Sorry, I got that open, just refresh my recollection.
Yep,
So Bob has it too. So GB last year was 3.50,
yes.
and these numbers reflect the GB of what?
3.39.
3.39.
Where did I put my, I didn't bring my.
3.39806.
Okay, and then GS last year was what?
1.85.
1.85 is.
I think it was 1.85. Let me look here exactly though.
I didn't bring my.
Here it is. 1.85 last year.
And these numbers reflect what?
1.39256.
Okay, and then RSP last year was,
3.5.
and these numbers reflect.
3.1150.
Okay, perfect.
Or no, sorry. That RSP one's a little bit lower. I think it's 3.1.
Did I get it at 3.1? Here, let me open up the budget.
I think RSP is 3.1.
3.10, I think you're right.
I believe so.
We'll discuss that, you discussed it last week.
I'm sorry, can you refresh my memory? What's the number that you base that 100% on secondary roads? Is that like
3.0375.
Yes.
It's 3 and 3.75. So it's 3.375.
0.3875?
375.
It's 3.00375.
Okay, thank you.
3.877.
I think it's funny though.
And he's asking for 100%, which I believe we talked about was at a 8% increase. Just because the evaluations went up about $100 million. And that's what happens.
So, okay, I'm sorry, one more question.
Yeah.
Everything stays the same, which we know it probably won't in the morning. But this is one of, like, next year valuations probably won't go up as much, right? Because it's a non.
Right.
So what's gonna happen
We'll get new
if
construction.
new construction is not the 2%.
Okay.
What I believe, I understand with the law, 3 changes in the House, Senate, and Governor, a 2% tax asking growth. So what I understand that to be is 2% on GB, GS is unrestricted because of the uses, and then a 2% on RSP. So for next year, if we have 3.584 million, I think it's gonna be simple 2% growth and a 2% growth on the 2.342 of RSP.
And yes, we do have, road
GS.
services at 3.1,
RSP at 3.1.
or what did I say? Yeah, road services, yeah.
Yeah, all three of those are a little different, they're all 2%, basically. So pretty much figured that that's gonna happen, that part of it.
So anyways, so going in, and so when you go down on the property tax asking, then it kind of reduces some of the other money coming in, like the excess tax and stuff like that. So I was able to go through it, and starting with rural services at levy rate of 3.1. I'm figuring in June 30th, 2027 as an ending fund balance of $628,165. And that is 24% of the expenditures. So then we would use probably $181,000 of our fund balance to pay for the bills. Any questions or concerns?
RSB though is pretty much giving it all out that's budgeted except for the payment to EMS. Pending where that RFP comes in. Otherwise, all those go out. Nothing's really kept back except for EMS. Any questions on RSB? And that's still given secondary road fund that 100% of the max RSB. So go to GBGS, I guess.
So, and I got the budget amendment, even though we haven't approved it. I kind of figured that into this. And so that's why our GB is a little bit lower than what you remember it being last week. So I have with all the costs the same now. What I asked you guys today about the $300,000 transfer and the $10,000, well, the $10,000 doesn't matter, but the $300,000 transfer is not part of this. So you can, it'll be 1,547,123 with that transfer in there if we
And
elect to
then
use it.
GS will have 1,062,000.
Yeah, so it'll basically be the same, just transferring money from one entity to, or GBGS, when I talk to the state auditor, they kind of see it as one account anyways, they kind of complement each other, so our 27% of our, of our, what do I want to say, 27%, let me make sure I got this right. Those. Okay, so we would have, our ending fund balance would be at 27% using both accounts, GBGS, and that is taking GS down to, and I did not fix this, Scott, so if you're wondering, well, I thought she was gonna even it out, I did not do that. So it's 1.39256.
Because everyone else has a 4 or 5 digit number.
Yeah, so the general basic had it, so I just decided to leave it.
So then our total levy rate, if you want to go down a little bit, is
8.32276. If I print from here, where would it go?
the main computer.
Because I was thinking I should print it for
Oh, Bob.
Bob, I'll just print this for you. This current tab, okay? So you don't have to.
So again, did anybody think about the public hearing, the separate one? The only thing I would add is last year we did a 9 o'clock and a 9:30. Last year we sat here for about 20 minutes. We gotta have a separate agenda item and a separate meeting. Last week we discussed 8:30. With my other part-time job, I think 8:30 for me might be a little pushing it. If we go back to the 9 o'clock on the 23rd, and then maybe a 9:15 regular meeting. Is it okay with that?
Do we have to put the time in the second meeting, or can we just say follow?
It's a question, Dave, do we need to have, yeah.
Very good, so it's like a meeting.
So the regular meeting will be postponed 15 minutes until 9:15.
What do you, what's
So
that?
when you do the dome worksheet for next week's approval,
Yeah, if you had 30 people show up and you couldn't start your regular meeting until 9:45, that's just so be it. But you need to at least have a start time in there, so they'll know where I want to.
so we're gonna move the dome worksheet for max levy to a 9 o'clock public hearing for the max levy. And then a 9:15 regular meeting on the 23rd of March.
So you don't want that in next week?
No, so that's that big mailing we sent out to all property owners. I think some bodies already approved most of theirs, the school district I saw in the paper, and I don't know if the city of New Hampton or other cities have yet.
So I have to get all their work by March 5th. And then I send it out to
Mailing services.
our mailing services, and then they mail them by the 15th, but they usually get them out the next day. So we're gonna have max levy meeting at 9 o'clock on March 23rd, and then we're gonna have the regular meeting at 9:15.
Correct. Nothing about max levies, but I think we should have some discussion about capital projects and
Oh,
local office sales tax. So that's why you guys got that email.
okay,
It was
so,
on Friday, but
just a second. All right, anybody have any more questions or concerns about the departments, their amounts, our fund balances?
I don't.
Okay,
So the next sheet is county betterment.
did I change anything? Okay, so the next thing is. Okay, so you wanna go with loss betterment first?
Yep.
Okay, so we have the lost, I have, as of June 30th of 2025, we had a balance in there of 196,639. We're gonna receive revenues, and I'm sorry, this should be 25.6, I don't know why I changed that. 85,000, that'll put us up to 281,639. We had, what did we all have it? No, we had the payment for the EMS of 160, and then we had 45,000 for the, which went to the conservation. So I just took 35,000 of what was budgeted and I subtracted it, so we should have an ending fund balance on June 30th of 2026 of $246,639. And then we should get revenues of 90,000. We have one payment so far budgeted in there. And with that one payment to the EMS, I have a total of, at the end, 266,138. So you guys, if you want me to budget for something, please let me know.
So yeah, we've never put in the budget for an April 30th deadline of a project. You guys can see only one payment of 70,501 currently is gonna take out. Maybe, maybe not. I think we need to do something with some of that, either parks, cold storage. You guys wanna throw 200,000 into county conservation cold storage? You guys see a balance of 266,000 in local option sales tax. What the people voted for county betterment projects. To be used in the rural part, unincorporated part of the county. This is our penny that we get from the state, that people locally spend on.
I think it'd be good to put 200,000 for the county conservation building, because he definitely needs it. If anybody hasn't been down there to see the old shed at that old landfill, it is, it's fall down.
Yeah, no, it's still standing. So yeah, we'll put it under his code then. County Conservation Department, 200,000 from loss. Anybody want? There might be more that comes in, depends on the habits
And
of
that's gonna be a
citizens
capital
when they buy stuff. But that 85 or that 90,000 is, I always say sometimes low, but just a rough picture is 266 next June. So 200,000, is that okay, Scott?
Yep.
Jonas?
So 200,000 for conservation.
Put that in the budget for next July, or this July, actually. So then moving over to capital project fund.
Okay, so July 1st of, why am I, did this all change? I must have been sleeping when I did this. So July 1st of 2025, we had a balance in capital projects of $386,242.84. We get rent revenues of $25,180. So that brings us up to $411,422. I subtract 200,000, and Jake thought that was a little bit much
I did.
because our bill is gonna be 152,000 from Gage.
That's a cooling tower.
Plumbing and heating, this is for the air conditioner. It's 152, but I don't know, the idea of putting a big air
She's worried
conditioner up
about
there,
extra expenses.
I just, what if something happens?
So there's about 48,000 movement on here of extra money because of a signed contract with Nick Cage. We did budget 200,000, we got the bid at 152. You
And,
guys-
and you know what,
so
and I
keep it
could,
as is, but
you know, I could put 175 in here too and see what it is. So if you guys can see it. So then that would put us on June 30th, 2026 of $236,422. Now, we are gonna still get our rent of $25,180. You guys are having me transfer $1,500,000. So that's gonna put us at an ending balance of $1,761,602. So I need to know what capital project, or if you just want me to put it in a 99 account, so you guys can decide. And if you change your mind, all I have to do is switch departments, which is okay to do as long as it's not service areas.
yeah. So
And a
this
capital
has-
project will be a 0-200 anyways.
Remember, this has nothing to do with max levy. This can be decided sometime before we publish the budget. Next Monday, there is a contractor gonna come and present to us what windows would look like. The vendor is willing to get a spec sheet for us, so we can go out for an RFP for courthouse windows. Sheila just wants discussion about what number do you wanna put in there for some set projects. It doesn't have to be just at the courthouse, it could be projects at the sheriff's office, it could be projects at the Heritage. What would you like to see to spend 1.7, all of that money on? Just non-department, courthouse, 51. We've talked about projects for the last many years. This would be a year to take care of our buildings.
Well, like the courthouse probably, I don't take anything with the sheriff's office either, we know we have some issues over there we need to take care of, and I don't know if it's possible to move some of that over here.
I think it would
That could
be,
be part of the courthouse project.
yeah. So do we wanna put,
And I can just put it in Department 99, which is a non-department, and you guys can move it later. But I just have to have the
Authority.
service area and the authority to spend it.
Well, I think that's probably the best option.
Okay, and then just put like 1.5
1.6,
or at all.
1.726.
all of it?
Well, then it zeroes out, right? Yeah.
So
I was looking at 84 cents.
But you know, on the bottom, you know what I mean? Don't do that. And there is 2 other capital project funds in there. If you look at your full cash, we have, or are you guys done with this?
Yeah, I think,
Okay, so how much am I gonna put for sure?
you guys okay with 1.6?
Yeah.
Okay,
1.6 million.
thank you. See if I got that right. No, okay. So then I didn't put them down here, but I was just gonna tell you guys that the full cash, we have 2 capital accounts for the Amendment 1 and Amendment 2 of the TIF projects. I was talking to Roman, he told me to put 535,000 in the projects 1 for, he didn't think the building, in case the building didn't get done, that we could move it into the next fiscal period, so that's what I was gonna do. And then the second thing is, we did a budget amendment for $3 million coming in, whether it comes in or not, we did do that budget amendment. So going out for in July 1st, should I move that $3 million because I heard Roman talk, I heard him say something that he'll get some testing back in August. And I don't think that
Some
will
of the
be
bills,
done.
yeah, that
I just,
will.
July
She wants to
1st.
know how much of the TIF 1503 needs to be budgeted for next fiscal year.
Right now, I was just gonna do the whole 3 million. And just take it off one end, put it on the other end, and we can still use it on this end, but now I have permission to spend it.
You guys get it?
Yeah.
Bond money.
Yeah.
Into that fund.
And I probably should have put it down on the paper for you guys, but
Otherwise, does Joel need expense authority for the donation fund?
he just got that new money, didn't he?
Yeah,
And I didn't give him that. Let's
I don't know. I'm just
see. Let me
asking.
look.
Just want to make sure we have the appropriation to spend. Current balance is
He's
32,000.
got 30,000 permission to spend for the following year, for 26, 27. You think you might need more?
Only 30.
I put 30 in there because of looking at the account, but now we got new money, or new,
Yeah, we said he was gonna use it.
how much do you get extra?
A machine.
But later,
Yeah.
How much?
Right now it's 32,854.
So should I do 35 because of this?
Could. We can ask him, but I would up that as much as close as possible as full cash.
Right.
If he gets more donations in, that's great. We can change it with the budget amendment, but.
Okay, so let's see if I got this right. So conservation, I'm gonna up 200,000 for a capital project of cold storage. And then our capital projects account, we're gonna do 1.6 million for a capital project. And then EMS, we are gonna up the donation to cover what's in the balance of the cash, and I still need to do the lawyers.
Forfeiture fund.
Yeah, I just thought of that. And you just want me to do whatever's on there for the cash, okay?
What did we ever decide about the DARE account? It's been out there for many years and no activity.
I don't know. That, I think, is a discussion with Ryan, because he's the one that has authority with that account.
I mean, if we don't have budgeted for it though, we
How much?
$1,200.
Hmm.
Either you spend, do we have an authority this year or do we need authority next year to spend that?
He gave no authority he didn't put it in his budget. So,
Does he have authority this year to spend it? That's a
let me
question.
see.
We'd have
What
to-
number is that?
29,
29?
which is the full cash report, but it's department,
This is 29, I got the thing here someplace. So 29, we have, no,
no, that's the department.
this
That's,
is the fund,
no,
no? Oh, the department, so what fund is
I
it?
don't know how that she's.
Oh, is it 45?
No, that's a building.
Accounting, I think it's. Well, and I can email, oh, here it is, it is 29, the fund. Whoops, no, it's 28, there you go. Now, let's see, 28.
Medical diggers.
That's K9. There is 29. K9 is, so it was 29.
And we'll look into that,
Okay, yeah.
see what needs to be done, if he has a right to spend it or not.
So we're gonna look at sheriff's there. Okay, anything else for me? Oh, and then we're gonna have the max levy meeting on March 23rd at 9.
We're
Regular
gonna vote
meeting.
on that next week though.
Okay, yep. But that's what you wanna put in the sheets.
Yeah, I think so. Yes. All right, anything else on budget work session? If not, future agenda items we have next week is the amendment to the budget number 3.
TIF,
There'll be a resolution for the pre-levy TIF. And then
windows,
window person will be here, and I will probably schedule Joel's review either next week or the 9th. I did get an email from Denise on Friday just to see when she could come. She has tentatively a meeting with Floyd County Supervisors on the 10th. Wondering if you guys are okay for a special meeting on the 10th, or she might come on the 9th, like later in the afternoon. So then she would stay up here in Northeast Iowa on Monday night. You guys willing to come in on Tuesday if that works with her better? Just asking. Otherwise, I'll say, nope, you gotta come tonight.
It's okay, man.
You okay for Tuesday special meeting?
10th, 11th, man.
No, 12, 13.
13, okay.
ISACs,
Yeah.
12th and 13th. So I'll reach out to Denise. She was gonna lock in Floyd County's meeting first and then see if she either can have ours first or after. So we might have a special meeting on the 10th, just so you guys are aware. That'll be for the renewal for IGHCP. I did tell her to get 3 options out there too, to see what PSF looks like with different funding mechanisms. So. Anything else? All right, is there a motion to adjourn now? So. Motion by Scott, second by Travis to adjourn at 10:57. Roll call, Scott.
Aye.
Travis. Steve.
Aye.
Jake, aye. Motion is carried.
I gotta fix it. Okay.